Hey friends, today is day 37 of Russian war against Ukraine. Over the last couple of days, a lot of things happened, not only in Ukraine, but also around the world. So we're going to talk about five main things. Number one, what's going on with the intelligence community in the United States and France. Number two, we're going to talk about the law prohibiting operation of Russian Orthodox Church in Ukraine and why it may seem like a undemocratic and tyrannical move, but that's actually a good law, and I'll explain why. Number three, we're going to talk about the attack on Belgrade oil storage facility, and what's interesting about that is that Belgrade is not in Ukraine, it's in Russia. Number three, we're going to talk about a report on Putin's cancer and what we know about it. And number five, I'm going to give you an update on what's going on with Russia's ultimatum to the West about selling their oil and gas only in rubles. All right, number one, intelligence community scandal. As you know, that United States intelligence community, it's consisting of 17 independent agencies. So the scandal we're talking about now is particularly in the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA. They were called on the carpet to talk about the reports they have been giving to the Office of the President on Ukraine. And particularly the scandal is around that they had overestimated the Russian forces and underestimated Ukrainian. So I'm listening to this one interesting analyst. He lives in America right now, but he used to be a KGB agent who was recruited back in the 70s. So he talks about how these streams work. So number one, he says that the way American intelligence community knows about anything that's going on in Russia, and even now in the bunker, is not because they have the place bugged or anything, but it's because they have internal sources who can tell them what's going on in real time. For example, you know that yesterday the British intelligence and American intelligence had been made public that Putin, that they know what's going on with Putin. They're saying we know who's reporting to Putin and what kind of information they're giving to him, and their conclusion was that they're reporting what Putin wants to know, not exactly what's really happening, and that's why there's a lot of dysfunction in Russian army. And the way the reason they're doing this is because they want Russian authorities to know that they know what's going on in the bunker, what's going on even in their back office conversation. So we know that the intelligence agency is strong and they have internal sources, but when it comes to evaluating armies, that can be a problem. Internal sources can be a problem because internal sources feed them information, but also feed them estimations. So that's how American intelligence knew that Putin had already made up his mind to invade Ukraine days before it happened, but also the same sources told them that the Russian army is a lot more stronger, that in 3 days it would be able to take Kiev. And in fact, the briefing that Mark Milley, the defense minister of the United States, had given to the office of the president was the same, was that in 3 days Kiev will be taken. So on the one hand, the internal sources are good to report factual information, but as far as estimations, it's not really good because it gives them a point of view of Russians that, yeah, Russian army is really strong. Ukrainian army is just a bunch of neo-Nazis running around with AK-47s. So that's why DIA was led into this lie that Ukrainian army is not that strong, that Russian army will be able to crush them in 3 days. So as far as I know, haven't been any firings yet over at DIA, but that's definitely a scandal, and that's something that intelligence community is currently figuring out how could they get it wrong. On the other hand, there was a firing in France. So the head of French intelligence, by the name of last name General Vido, he has been fired. This report, Figaro, is a French newspaper that is reporting this, for grossly underestimating the threat of Russian invasion. So while American intelligence and through the president was saying that, yes, we know Russia is going to invade, we know that Putin has already made up his mind, and even 2 days before the invasion, when Lavrov, the Russian foreign affairs minister, was saying, no, we're pulling back our troops, still American intelligence was insistent that no, they're still going to invade. And But the French position was that they're not going to invade. The French position was totally misguided. That's why they're firing their general veto over this. And you hear here and there that a lot of the intelligence was led astray because they relied on their internal sources too much. But nevertheless, American intelligence is still very, very strong. They're making public some reports, something that they know, and of course there's a lot they're not telling us, but by the information they do have, it's pretty impressive what they know and how fast they're able to know this. So the report that I put out yesterday about that Putin is being fed this wrong information. In fact, why he's being fed this information is because you have to understand a little bit about how Russia works, which is everybody is afraid to report bad news to the higher ups because they're afraid for their own careers. So Putin is sort of stuck in this vicious cycle where he eats his own dog food. He believes the propaganda that's being put out through his media and such. So, but the way what American intelligence is reporting is what resonates with a lot of analysts who are KGB agents in the past. They're saying, yeah, this is very likely because this is how KGB works. So you have to understand that Russia is being run not by military, not by the professional military people, but by special agents in the past. In fact, the defense minister of Russia, Sergei Shoigu, he's not a military guy. He's never served in the army a day in his life. He's a civilian who was promoted somehow to be the defense minister, and it has to do with Putin's paranoia as well, because he doesn't allow a lot of people in his into his close circle. He is afraid of a military coup, so that's why he's putting incompetent people who would not be able to outmaneuver or outwit him, so he can keep his power. Pretty pathetic, isn't it? All right. You may have heard about the law. Right now, it's only being discussed by Rada, which is Ukrainian parliament. So the law goes that the Russian Orthodox Church as an organization is prohibited to operate in Ukraine. And from Russian sources, you would hear something like, "Well, this is what we told you. This is the fascist regime of Ukraine. This is them prohibiting religions. This is them restricting religious freedom." In reality, that's not that. So Russian Orthodox Church has not been a church for the longest time. Even since Stalin times, it has been an arm of Russian intelligence forces. It's basically been a independent operator of Russian secret forces in Ukraine. Because, I mean, if you live in Ukraine, you totally know what I'm talking about. The priests are basically KGB agents. The stuff they preach, the stuff they advise to the parish, the way they conduct their events, it's all geared towards creating loyalty for Russia and creating a disdain for Ukraine. So, and this is just what we know. And when I say that a lot of priests are KGB agents, I'm not kidding. Some of them are like real FSB registered agents, as it turns out. So in fact, Russian Orthodox Church is just an arm of Russian intelligence and Russian operation in Ukraine. So when Ukrainian parliament is taking this law into consideration, they're actually protecting the foreign interests of Ukraine. They want, or actually internal affairs of Ukraine, because they don't want to have this rot from within. So this is not in any way a tyrannical law or restriction of religious freedoms. This is just eliminating another arm of Russian propaganda and Russian operation in Ukraine. All right, number 3, attack on Belgorod oil storage. So as I said in the beginning, Belgrade is not in Ukraine. It's in Russia. In fact, it's about 20 kilometers from Kharkiv. So Kharkiv was one of the cities that was basically carpet bombed, not carpet bombed, but the residential areas have been wiped out by Russian missiles, which were launched particularly from Belgrade as well. So 2 days ago, there was 2 missiles came into Belgrade's oil storage facility and wiped it clean. You may have seen videos of the attack. There were two missiles come in, and then fireworks started, and it looks like fireworks. So strategically, that particular facility was storing a lot of the energy, so a lot of oil, benzene, gas for Russian tanks and machinery. So now that it has been destroyed, the supply chain issues for Russian army is becoming even more severe. So it was a good hit, but nobody knows who did that. So the most likely scenario is that Ukrainians have launched their artillery into the facility and destroyed it. That would have been a good move on Ukrainian army's part, but there's no confirmation to that. We don't know what happened. It might have been Russian planes as well, either as provocation or as a mistake. So there have been several stories of Russian planes hitting their own targets. Actually, we know this factually because different systems detected, but also from interceptions of Russian commanders talking between themselves. They're saying, yeah, they're hitting Ukrainian targets, but they're also hitting us because they don't know, they can't discern what they see on the ground. And the reason for that is because all good pilots in Russia are gone. So as you know, Ukraine has downed by now it's like 107 planes out of 250 which were designated for this war. So the first planes that were entering Ukraine were higher ups in the army, but now that they're run out of those, they're putting people who have not flown a lot of hours, so they're making mistakes with that. So that's a possibility. Ukrainian army is of course not taking the responsibility for hitting that target, but it might have been that they had done this, and if they had, it's a pretty good move because they have cut off Russian machinery from gas for several days at least. So we'll see what happens and what information comes out about that. Also, number 4, Putin's cancer. So there's a publisher who used to be called Agency, and now they're called Project, which is translated as a project. So this agency has always been a thorn in Putin's back or on his side because he had designated them as a foreign agent. So the whole story with foreign agents is maybe like 8 or 10 years old. So all the non-propaganda publications in Russia have been required to register as a foreign agent, and which basically means that they do not act in Russia's official government interests. So anything that doesn't go, it doesn't have to be foreign, it doesn't have to be like BBC or CNN or anything like that. They could be independent Russian media, but there still will be declared foreign agents just because of the fact that they're being sponsored from the West, even though that doesn't have to be true at all. They're sponsored from the West, that they represent foreign interests. So this project was basically banned from this publisher was banned from Russia several years ago, but they came back to their original name, Project. So they put up a publication today that they had made an investigation through logs of Russian international procurement and through other inside sources that Putin most likely has thyroid cancer. The reason they're saying this is because pretty much on any trip that Putin goes on, there is about 10 doctors with him. But 2 of them are oncologists. One is what's the throat and ear doctor. And if you look at some of those names, one of the doctors had published a book about treating thyroid cancer for like old age patients or something like that. So they've put a lot of this information together, and they think that he's got a thyroid cancer. So this information had come out last summer originally, but they made a more based investigation, and now they're coming out with details. Another clue to that is that summer last year, so 2021, Putin had built a really small hospital at the premises of his residence, and there have been doctors pretty much from all over Europe coming and going into that. It's small enough that it's only for one person, but there's a couple of houses like from prime minister and everything. A couple of interesting details about his proposed plans that Practice is reporting is Putin has had several surgeries over the last couple of years, and every time he has the surgery, he has his prime minister by the name of Mishustin right there by him, guarded by Putin's own guard. Because while Putin is under, there is a provision in the Russian constitution that if the president is unconscious or is otherwise unable to perform his duties, the prime minister can trigger a change of government. So for that not to happen, every time he has a surgery, he puts Mishustin in a separate house under his own guard, so he does not overthrow him. So this guy is paranoid as hell. I guess we would have known that by the 20 feet tables he's putting up, or longer. Okay, and then finally, you heard about a week ago that Putin is giving until April 1 to all Western buyers of his oil, or as he calls them, non-friendly countries. So non-friendly are the ones who are putting sanctions on him. So his ultimatum was that you have to buy my natural gas and oil in rubles, and the reason he did this is because ruble is in the toilet right now, so he's trying to get more demand for ruble by this move, so that the market value of ruble goes up and their economy can basically reboot. He's gotten 2 hard no's from Germany and from France, actually uncharacteristic of these 2 diplomats. They're saying we're not paying in rubles. We have contracts that say that payment is done in dollars or euros, and if you have a problem with that, go to the arbitration court, which is in Sweden right now, I think. So they had said a hard no, and Putin has backed down. So right now, what they did was this weird scheme where they pay into Gaz. I think it's called Gasbank. There's a special bank that works with that industry. So the European buyers pay euros into that bank, and then bank makes another connected account to where they pay, transfers them to rubles, and then pays the producers in rubles. So in this way, Putin is actually, I should say, his ministers or the people who serve him are able to make it look to him as if the West had backed down, that they're paying in rubles, when in fact West is actually paying in euros, which means that they won. And this is another confirmation that Putin is getting this warped information, that people are afraid to tell him what's actually going on. Because right after this happened, today Putin announced that, well, now all the spare parts for airplanes and his heavy industry, his machine and automotive industry will have to pay in rubles as well. So he obviously did not understand what's happening in reality. So he's high on his supposed successes. He's saying, well, if the West backed down on natural gas and oil, we're going to do the same with automotive and spare parts and everything. On a radio show in Russia, it's a radio show made by a newspaper Kommersant, which is a pro-Russian, like pro-government, basically a propaganda paper. So they have a radio show. They invited a few people on it, and they're saying, like, what the hell is he doing? Nobody's going to pay us rubles for spare parts, while Russian aviation industry is non-existent. Basically, all the planes that they hold right now, they're holding illegally because the leasing companies have called them back, but they haven't physically transferred them. So what these people are saying is that, particularly in the aviation industry, is that we need to do inspections on these planes every week, but we cannot now because the foreign inspectors are not allowed to perform these. We cannot get spare parts, and there have been a few incidents over the last month since sanctions have kicked in, that one of the planes had problems with their braking, and another had caught one of the engines had caught fire in the air. So we're seeing that sanctions are starting to work. Things are becoming more dire for the aviation industry. So now the leaders of that industry are freaking out about, well, if we can't even buy parts on the black market because the seller has to pay us. Because we have to pay in rubles, then there's no way we can fly anymore. So as we can see, Putin is being fed wrong information. He's becoming more unhinged because he has less and less to lose with every day. So that's why he's coming up with these crazy schemas, and that's why Russia is worse off with him. So as we know, also. This is a small note at the end. Right now, there's something going on with Shoigu, his Minister of Defense, and himself. They are apparently in conflict, and Shoigu is becoming more distant because as Putin is becoming radicalized, his ministers, such as Shoigu, are less willing to implement his commands because he has nothing to lose, but they all have a lot to lose. And the word is a speculative word at that is that they're trying to find a way to remove him and to beg the West to lift the sanctions so they can go back to their comfortable, rich lives. All right, so that's it. With Putin cancer news, I think we all wish him a quick death. I'll see you next time, friends. Bye.